Welcoming Jerry to the Hall of Fame is Charles Barkley, class of 2006. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Sloan.
This is pretty tough for me. It's not something I like to do, but I guess I get started on it. This is a long way from McLeansboro, Illinois, and I'm honored to be here. Being inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is an achievement unsurpassed in my career. From my beginning in McLeansboro, the game of basketball has introduced me to opportunities and life experiences I never dreamed of as a youngest of 10 children. Raised by my mother on a farm, which was located 16 miles from the nearest town. My father passed away when I was 4 years old, and my older brothers and sisters had to help take care of our family. They could not play basketball because they had to work, the older ones. Fortunately for me, my family was instrumental in my decision to play, and their support was unwavering. The first 6 years of my education was spent in a one-room school. We had all 8 grades in one room, and my teacher was also the basketball coach. At that time, the boys and girls played on the same team. Later, the girls went on to become cheerleaders, just like Vivian said. There was no Title IX back then. Playing on the same team with girls was a true motivator for me. I was secretly happy when they were not allowed to play once we reached high school, because many of them were much better than me. My best friend, David Lee, he had a sister that was on our team, was better than either one of us. My freshman year of high school, I played for Coach Gene Hale. He was a head football coach, the freshman basketball coach. He went on to become the head coach for basketball, football, and track. Under Coach Hale, in order to play either one of those sports, basketball or football, you had to run track. And there was nothing I hated any worse than have to run in 2 miles. But I soon realized that what he was trying to do for me, make me run the hurdles, make me run long distance, would help my career, and maybe I could become a better athlete. This is a little bit unusual. Coach Hale demanded that we would practice in basketball before school started and again after school. We didn't have a car to drive, so I had to hitchhike 16 miles if I wanted to play. Early on, we made a lot of sacrifices to try to play this game. Coach Hale pushed us hard. If we did not play hard enough for him, he would say to us, "You guys are just a bunch of drugstore cowboys. Sit up there drinking milkshakes." And no one wanted to be a drugstore cowboy. When I got through with high school, I went to the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. I didn't last very long. I was there by the time basketball started, spent a couple of weeks, and I was so homesick I couldn't stand it. Basically, I'd never been out of the county. So I went back home and went to work in the oil fields. And that was a tough job. And then one day, my mom asked me if that's what I was going to do with the rest of my life. The best thing, she had a conversation, and I called Arad McCutcheon, who was my basketball coach at the University of Evansville. It was Evansville College then. Division II school. And I asked him if he had any scholarships available. And at the time, they didn't have any scholarships available. I was in the third, they were on a quarter system, so I wasn't able to enroll in the school. So I got a job at Whirlpool plant in Evansville. That gave me an opportunity to kind of get adjusted to the community and being away from home. And that helped me get myself established. Coach McCutcheon, later he welcomed me to school, and Evansville became my home. He gave me the confidence and support that I needed before I could ever play a game for him. Coach McCutcheon is inducted in the Hall of Fame. He won 5 championships, small college championships. He was an unusual coach. He did things to draw attention to the community and the team. One thing we did was to wear boxing robes out on the floor for our games. Everybody hated to wear them. To begin with, each of them were a different color. Another thing, our nickname was the Purple Aces. Our uniforms were orange. Trust me that we were noticed because of the things we did. Coach McCutcheon never cut a player. Our practices are never long, maybe an hour and 10, 15 minutes. But if he had 20 players that had tried out for the team, 20 players would dress at all of our home games. When the first group left, he switched out, went on down the line and worked till everyone had gotten their opportunity to try to play. That didn't mean that they were going to get my job. I had some terrific teams in Evansville. I had some terrific players to play with. Larry Hume, Sam Watkins, Herb Williams, Russ Grieger, Wayne Bolenhouse, who's here tonight, Buster Briley, and many others. Due to our success as a team, I was drafted 2 years in a row by the Baltimore Bullets. I was eligible to be drafted after my junior year if I elected to stay in college and finish my degree. My first year as a rookie in the NBA, I learned to be a hell of a cheerleader because I wasn't ready to play in this league. Still, I'd go home at night with a terrible headache because I wanted to play. But Paul Seymour was our coach, a veteran coach, had guys like Johnny Kerr, Gus Johnson, Bob Ferry, Kevin Lockery, Don Old, Johnny Egan, Jim Barnes, Johnny Green, Ben Worley, Bailey Howe. Those guys made it hard for me to get playing time. Johnny Kerr, who was also my roommate. We had to switch rooms every once in a while, and Johnny was my roommate, and I became very good friends with him. He told me if I was going to play in this league, I was going to have to unwind. He said, "You're like a spring that's getting ready to explode in a watch. You're wound up too tight." Bailey Howe, who is here in the Hall of Famer. Bailey was one of those guys that knew how to work to make himself better, and he taught me how to prepare to play. We would go work out one-on-one days before the game, and regardless where we were, he would spend time. He'd knock you on your rear end. It didn't make any difference if you were a rookie or whatever. He was going to fight you all day long. And I have tremendous respect for him. At the end of 1966, the Chicago Bulls started an expansion team in Chicago with Johnny Kerr as the coach. I was on the expansion list. I was one of the guys they're getting rid of. Johnny was responsible for me to get to Chicago. That was one of the great thrills of my life, being 300 miles closer to home. Our first year in existence, the Bulls made the playoffs. Now, that doesn't sound very good. I've never been on an NBA championship, but that was one of the most satisfying years of my career. 18 guys go to camp, 18 guys fight for a job and not given one. From that team, by making the playoffs, Johnny was the coach of the year. and after 2 years moved on to Phoenix Suns. Dick Motta became the new head coach of the Chicago Bulls. Dick was coach for most of my career in Chicago. He was a no-nonsense kind of guy, a great teacher, fundamentalist, and a fierce competitor. His style of coaching seemed to fit for my style of play. The trust Dick put in me, the decisions were made, the long talks we had, helped me formulate a lot of ideas that we still use in coaching today. I need to mention some of the players who were great teammates in Chicago. Tom Borwinkle, 6'11", lived in my backyard. When he bought the house behind me, I said, Tom, how are we going to, we were roommates one day. The next day you were in my backyard looking out the window. He said, I got that figured out. He said, I'll build a fence 6'10". I can see over and you can't.
It's 15 hours.
Chet Walker, Bob Love, Bobby Wise, Clifford Ray, who is here tonight, Guy Rogers, many other of our teammates, including Norm Van Leer. Norm came to Utah last year with a surprise visit. Norm didn't come to Utah very often. But I look back on it now, and he came to say goodbye. Norm was one of the toughest guys I've ever played with. Certainly miss him. He babysat my kids when we played together in Chicago. I have tremendous respect for the way he approached the game every day, the way he approached practice every day. And it was a pleasure to play with him. I remember before my sophomore season in college, Coach McCutcheon telling me that someday he would like me to come back and coach Evansville and replace him as a coach, hopefully 10 years later. I played professional basketball for about 10 years and finished a job just about the time he was ready to retire. My career as a player ended due to a knee injury. I was offered a position as a head coach of Evansville. Coach McCutcheon's wish came true. Unfortunately, I lasted 5 days. I resigned for personal reasons, went back to Chicago. I was replaced by Bobby Watson in Evansville, and sadly he was, that fall, along with the entire basketball team and traveling staff, their plane crashed on takeoff and leaving Evansville, and everyone was killed in that team. That incident, December the 13th, 1977, made me realize that there are a lot more things more important than basketball, even though I love this game and will always be grateful for what it has given me. After leaving Evansville, I became assistant coach to Ed Badger for the Chicago Bulls. After 2 seasons, I was released by the Bulls. A year later, I was hired as a head coach for the Bulls. I was a head coach for 2.5 years and would like to thank Rod Thorne and the Chicago Bulls organization for giving me the opportunity to start my head coaching career. The guy that was by my side, coached me through all the ups and downs during those early years of coaching, as well as the end of my career as a player, was Phil Johnson. Phil's here tonight. To this day is still with me as an assistant coach in Utah, just like he's been throughout my entire career. Because I occasionally offer the officials a little advice, Phil has been on the bench for the end of many more games than I have. 1982, Phil went on to become an assistant coach for the Utah Jazz under Frank Layden. In 1984, I took a job with the CBA team in Evansville, Indiana. We were just getting ready to start the season when Phil called me and said he was going to Kansas City as head coach, and if I'd like to come to Utah, he told me to call Frank Layden. for me, the rest is history. I was assistant coach to Frank for roughly 4 years, and I certainly love working with Frank Layton. I could have spent my entire career being his assistant. He had a terrific way of getting players to play at their highest potential of all times. He could undress a player in the locker room as well as anyone I've ever seen in my life, and they still had their clothes on. In December 1988, Frank decided he wasn't going to coach anymore and become the Jazz team president. Dave Checketts was also there. I became the head coach the next game and got permission to get Phil back with me. And he came with the Jazz. At that particular time, the team was owned by Sam Battistone, a wonderful owner, but shortly thereafter, Larry and Gail Miller purchased half the team and then all of it. I have been truly blessed to work for Larry, Gail, and the Miller family. Larry was always a hands-on owner. He's very intense and passionate about the game and about the team. This is a little unusual. He was in the locker room before the game, at halftime, and after the game. At first, I was a little bit intimidated, but a good thing came. He knew firsthand what I had to deal with. I never heard anything of secondhand news. Not many coaches lose 56 games and still keep their jobs. But loyalty is the number one reason I'm still coaching the Jazz. The confidence Larry showed in us for over 20 years is unparalleled in this business. As a head coach, I had the opportunity to coach great players and watch them develop. You all know about John and Carl, Jeff Hornacek, Mark Eaton, Adrian Danley, Artis Gilmore, Reggie Theus, Howard Isley, Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer, Greg Ostertag, Mike Harpering, Thurl Bailey, and Brian Russell, among the many. I've been blessed to have great assistant coaches in my 20-plus years with the Jazz and also with the Bulls. Phil Johnson, Scott Layden, Ty Corbin, Gordon Chiesa, Kenny Nat, and Gene Tarmolo. I'd like to thank also the trainers and assistants along my career. Mark McCown, Gary Briggs, Brian Zedler, Terry Clark, Mike Cheminsky, Don Sparks, Bob Beal, Joe Prosky, Doug Atkinson, Richard Smith, David Fredman, and Mark Fowl. I would like to give thanks to the people behind the scenes, including the front office, the public relations department, scouts, and the media. Thank all of our fans and friends and fans for all of your ongoing support. Judy Adams, thanks for all you do for us. I want to thank Kevin O'Connor for nominating me to the Hall of Fame and for all your support of the last 10 years, both off and on the court. In closing, I'd like to recognize my late wife, Bobby, for her many years of unwavering support and for taking the lead in raising our wonderful children here with me tonight. Kathy, Brian, and Holly, and my 7 grandchildren. This is a little. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I've learned that there are many things in life more important than basketball, but meeting my wife Tammy and my stepson Red has allowed me to continue on with my career in basketball when I question my strength to do so. And thank all of you for being here this evening, and congratulations my fellow inductees. I could not be prouder. It's truly an honor to be among such a well-respected and talented group of individuals. Thank you all very much.